So I recently did a review of a Bruichladdich, the Laddie Classic, and the result left me disappointed is the wrong word. Jonesing, I guess. Like, it made me really want to go out and try some real proper Bruichladdich. So that's what we're doing in this video. I am breaking out this thing. This is what they're calling the Barley Exploration Collection. This came out a couple of years ago, probably like 2018, 2019, but it's still floating around out there. And what this is, it's a collection of 3 bottles. I already emptied it because I'm not going to try to do this on camera. 3 bottles, and by the way, an awesome fold-out poster thing. Representing different barley expressions, which is very, very, very cool. Bruichladdich has done a lot to try to advance the cause of sourcing local barley, old varietals, organic farming, that kind of thing. Now, these particular bottlings, unless you go for the Heritage Collection, are going to be tricky to find because they're a little bit older, but their equivalents are kind of still out there. They're not as cheap as they used to be, which is a little annoying, but they are out there. So if any of these are good, I'm going to give you a go ahead and buy the later equivalents of these. All right, so what have we got? We've got Islay Barley, which is just sourced from farms on Islay. We've got the Organic Barley, which, as the name suggests, is sourced from all organic farms. And we have the Bere Barley, which is from a particular varietal of barley. So I'm super pumped to get into these. All different vintages, different ages. We're just going to go from youngest to oldest. But all bottled at 50% ABV, natural color, unchillfiltered, all that good stuff. And we're going to start with the Islay Barley 2010. This is a 7-year-old, no indication of cask, but there is some dark color to this, which suggests there may be some like rechar casks or wine casks in there, something like that on the nose. So, okay, it smells like a malt whiskey. Let's start with that. There is a lot of like toasted brown sugar happening. Toasted brown sugar, some like just sliced apple, sliced Granny Smith apple, malted milk balls. There's a touch of like maybe a splash of seawater in this, a little bit of a sea breeze thing, but very subtle. Like 1 seashell. Orange peel. Actually, orange peel, but also like kind of a bergamot, Earl Grey tea sort of note. Some herbaceousness, oregano, parsley, sage. White pepper. Along with the Earl Grey note, there's certainly some coffee in this, like some Brazil dominant espresso or something like that. A little hint of like dried strawberry or something like that. The Special K strawberry things. My daughter loves, so you can buy like little packages of those things on their own without the cereal at Trader Joe's. My daughter loves them. Will kill a bag in 10 minutes. And yeah, it's we're honestly not that far from what the Classic was doing. There's a little bit less of a fruitiness to this. It's a little bit more dark, savory. Of course, there's some American oak in this, some just vanilla, kind of intermingling with the coffee, tea stuff. Okay, on the palate. 7 years old. Yeah, in many ways, just kind of tasting this, kind of not blind, but unprepared. My first impression is like this feels a lot like what the Laddie Classic would be if they just kind of let it all have the time to mature a little bit more. It's just a little bit more coherent, and I think that's just proper aging time. Similar kind of notes as on the nose. Take some Grainy Smith apple slices, cover them in brown sugar, get out your sort of culinary blowtorch, torch all that down, caramelize it all down. That's kind of the first impression. Malted milk balls, espresso again, Earl Grey tea again, a little bit of lemon peel, seashells. Vanilla, black pepper, a little bit of that sage note again, although less herbaceous than on the nose. There's this little bit of a floral thing now too. A little bit of I don't know, just some nice dried dandelions kind of coming out here. Pepper, a little allspice. Form is pretty darn good. It's got some length to it. It's pretty intense in the front of the mouth, but it does creep a little bit back. Finish is not super duper long, but it kind of hangs in there. And the ashy coffee tea thing feels very nice. It's not blowing me away, but this is a very, very nice glass of malt whiskey. Certainly unless it falls in its face when I add water, certainly I prefer this over the Laddie Classic. So I'll give this a squirt. I'll give this 2 squirts. 50%, right? Okay. Moving on. We are on to the organic barley. Now I noticed that the full bottlings of this had much more information on where all this is about the provenance of where the barley is coming from, the farms and all that. So I will put that down below, but there's nothing actually on these bottles. But it is from the 2009 vintage, all organic barley, 8 years old. And the color is a little bit lighter though. So that's interesting on the nose. Much more honey driven. Much more honey driven. This time, clover honey, orange blossom honey, kind of aromatic honeys, and really just a little bit of orange peel too. Lots of orange, that kind of dark chocolate note, which is very Bruichladdich. None of these so far have shown that kind of lactic character, which I really enjoy. Not yet. It might sneak up on me. Certainly some apples. We're more on like kind of dessert apple now. We're now on like full-blown red delicious. Certainly more seashells on this. Black pepper. Vanilla. The honey is really, it's really prominent and it's really, really nice. There's some cereally grainy notes. So it's almost like oatmeal where like half the oatmeal is just full of honey. Something like that. More of that kind of coffee tea thing. It's more English breakfast tea than bergamot now, with those orange peel notes on the side. I mean, it's not actually that much more of a complex nose than the Islay Barley. It's a little bit more complex, but it feels like there's more, how do I put this, more focus to it. because it's all kind of working around that sort of central honey theme, which I'm really enjoying. Okay, more sea breeze stuff coming out now. It's a sea of sea breeze and seashells. Like, oh, a little bit of floral coming out now. Oh, I like this. Now it's starting to pull ahead. Now that I've been swirling it around. Yeah, just a bunch of floral notes kind of coming through now, kind of on top of the honey. Okay, this is winning me over on the palate. That's fun. That has a fun journey. Because initially, like even into the swallow, like before the finish starts, it's like I've just had my mouth full of honey. And that's like all I'm getting is honey, 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 honey. And as you start to creep into the finish, like the tannins, like some really overbrewed tea start to creep in. And bring out a lot of complexity. Like there's some grainy notes going on here, that oatmeal-y thing again. Mouth length is about the same as the Islay Barley. Feels about the same, but what I'm interested in is that kind of floral honey note, which is so prominent on the arrival in the mid palate, just kind of sustains itself like deep into the finish, even as the tannins start to come out. It really so those kind of initial elements hang on just longer. It's really lovely. Let me get some notes for you. Honey, honey, honey. Mix of floral elements. There's some roses in here. Field flowers like dandelions. Dried flowers. But then also, you know, very strongly brewed English breakfast tea. A little bit of a cafe latte element. Even like a cappuccino element. Like pretty strong cappuccino. Not a ton of fruit to this. There's some kind of like a little bit of maybe candied orange peel plus some, I don't know, a little, almost a bitter apple thing. There's almost like an apple core kind of element coming through on this. Vanilla, most definitely. That seashell, sea breezy kind of thing. It's here. It's not as prominent as on the nose. Certainly some black pepper. Again, we're not getting into the stratosphere with this one, for me at least yet. But it's now we're getting into what I really like about Bruichladdich. Just that kind of layering of different elements that in some ways feel like they shouldn't work that well together. This intense, you know, honey barley note that's so floral with this also very intense, like, you know, kind of leaning herbaceous side. There's still a little bit of sage going on in this, especially on the palate. That in that kind of maritime-y side. It's an interesting combination, and I've always kind of loved it. Let's give that 2 squirts as well. Moving on to this, which I'm guessing is going to be the most expensive one here. The Bere Barley. Bere Barley is a very old heirloom varietal, low yielding. I think they tend to grow it on Orkney, is where you tend to find it. This example, 2008 vintage, 10 years in cask. So let's see what we got here. On the nose. Give me a second. Now we're starting to get a little dairy, which makes me happy. Yeah, now there is a little bit of like whole milk yogurt with strawberries going on in this. But I can't tell if the strawberries are the casks or not. That could just be an aspect of the distillate. Vanilla, that kind of like brown sugar toasted apple thing I mentioned from before. Or even like an apple crumble, one of those desserts that always get wheeled out in the cart and then no one eats them. I always feel, what's wrong with apple crumbles? They're delicious. Go eat one. This one it feels a little close. I'm going to see if I can swirl it around in here, get it going. Okay, now we're getting the sea breeze. Okay, this is getting fun because now, like, something in my brain is telling me that I'm smelling peat, but I'm not smelling peat. I'm smelling Islay. Yeah, there's no actual peat in this, but all the signals. There's like this little this sea breeze thing, the minerality. There's even a little touch of like iodine bandage in here, just a little, just for fun. And all that is setting off my peat alarm, so there's no actual peat in this. But I am getting that yogurt thing, which is fun. Vanilla, sage, parsley, some flowers on this, but much more on like rose, a little touch of lavender. Don't be scared. The apples are really starting to come out a little bit more now. Not anywhere near as much honey as I was getting on the previous glass, but there is like some oatmeal on this again. Some cinnamon. Yeah, and just like some nice, I don't know, just nice maltiness. Maltiness. Let's go with that. That's vague. It's a weasel word, but whatever. Some citrus peel, lemon peel, orange peel. Yeah, when do you know, when you pour something, that you're dealing with a spirit that's pretty darn good? When you're swirling the damn thing and you just start pulling more and more notes out of it, and it just seems to come alive in the glass more and more the more time you spend with it. That's when you know you're dealing with something pretty damn good. And this is pretty damn good. Okay, let's try this. I built myself up. Let's see how it is. Yeah, these other two are good. These are good. They are not in the same territory as this guy right here. This is fantastic. Wow. Well, let me not get ahead of myself too much. So it arrives. That honey thing that was missing from the nose arrives hard up front on like concentrated, like chewing on clover honeycomb kind of thing right up front. Some apple in the core, a little bit of aromatic tobacco, like some oriental tobacco happening up there too, kind of in the margins. Some florals happening, a little bit of that sagey herbaceousness happening as well. That's all up front. And then as it starts to transition to the mid palate, it just kind of explodes into seashells and that little medicinal note. The like one Band-Aid with a little iodine on it. There's just, yeah, so much happening in that mid palate. Some apple up front, and then pow. Oh God, that's good. Really rich coffee, really rich like Darjeeling tea happening. Good mouth length, good mouth feel, but the finish, the mid palate transition into the finish is just like it's, I mean, it's, very high tier development mouth presency stuff. Vanilla, creme brulee, dark chocolate again, graham cracker, a little s'mores, I guess. Sure, let's go with s'mores. But also some really dark rye bread happening, some like Baltic black bread in this. This is fantastic. Yeah, I'm dying to see what this does with water. 2 squirts. I'm gonna look up at the pricing on this, and it's gonna be like $200, and I'm gonna cry because this is really good. Okay, moving on. We're going to the second round. Incidentally, it occurred to me, as long as we're taking a little break here, the other day it occurred to me I could write a book. Because like I'm just kind of sitting here waiting for one of the jobs I'm applying to kind of finally get back to me. So in the meantime, I'm just kind of sitting at home, doing these little videos, doing house stuff. But I could be writing a little book or something. I've got tons of these little philosophy and booze anecdote things that I sometimes share. But I've got other ones that are just too damn long, kind of locked away up here in kind of notes form over on the computer. And I could just write that up. And I don't know if there's a market for that kind of thing. And I wouldn't blame anyone if there wasn't, because I've read some of those like whiskey and philosophy books, and wow, they are mostly really not good. Compared to the wine and philosophy ones, which are really, they get gross sometimes. But yeah, I could do that. Like if someone wanted to buy a book of me talking philosophy stuff and then obliquely getting into spirits, I could crank that out. That would be fun. I just don't know if anyone cares, really. Anyways, let me know in the comments if you care. Let's get some engagement going here. And move back to our Bruichladdich. Okay. So, back to the Islay Barley. This one was, I mean, it's nice. But this one was far, far, far in the... Definitely far, far behind the Bere Barley right now, which is the clear leader, but also a little bit behind the organic. So let's see if it steps up. It's just very dark on the nose. It's the color is the darkest of these three, and it just smells kind of the darkness. There's lots of tea stuff, coffee stuff. That kind of like dried strawberry thing. It gets a little bit more peppery with water. Not a ton of development otherwise on the palate. I'm going to go back to my initial assessment. This is just, it's really what I wish the Laddie Classic was. Like, you're getting that sort of intense, malty, fruity thing, you're getting apples and malted milk balls and all that stuff. You're getting a little bit of love from the red wine cask. Not going to lie. Like strawberries, and it's the dried strawberries, but also like some green strawberries. It's a little bit herbaceous. That's not my favorite thing in whiskey, but here it's kind of contained. I'll probably let them save a little bit of money on this. And everything just kind of feels coherent. It's got some weight behind it. It's got some mouth presence to it. It's nice and oily. Darjeeling tea. In terms of development, the tannins, the tea tannins might have come out a little bit more. It's not that kind of green strawberry note is maybe coming out a little bit more. I probably liked it a little hair more neat, just a hair, but not enough to really knock it back. What am I going to score this? You know what? The kind of green strawberry thing is bothering me a little bit. And there's a little bit of the floral note has become a little bit aggressive now. It gets a little bit like drier sheet on me now that I've added water. Still very pleasant. I will give this an 85 minus. Absolutely worth your time if the price is right, and absolutely a step up from the Laddie Classic. But, just to warn you, I would have a need. Moving on. We are back to the Organic Barley 2009. So the honey is still there, but it's kind of pulled back a little bit to let some of the traditional kind of malty, fruity notes come through a little bit more. There's more apple happening now. A little bit more kind of Darjeeling tea stuff kind of coming through in the nose. It's fun. There's a little bit of like campfire smoke element to this. So not like peat smoke. This is like a little bit of campfire smokiness on the palate. No, the finish is hanging on. Okay. Yeah. Okay. How am I going to sum this one up? So most of what the water has done is it's extended the finish. That's what it's done. Like that honey thing, it was holding on pretty long before. Now it's just kind of like stretching itself out, maybe like 10-20% longer than it was before. Yeah, everything about this is just a little bit cleaner and a little bit better than the previous glass. It's has more power in the mouth. It holds on for longer. And the flavors are just kind of a cleaner expression of what I want from Bruichladdich. It's not sort of bringing in the insanity. That's what the next glass is doing. But it's really nice. What can I score this? Can I get up to past? I can't get up past 86. I'm just going to give this an 86. Let's call this an 86. 86 points. But adding water really gave this like a full-blown extra point. I think it's the opposite story as with this one. Like this one got dinged for what it did with water. This one stepped up. So it's fun. It's fun when you have spirits with character that actually change when you when you alter them chemically. Okay, moving on. This one I am very excited to see. We are back to the Bere Barley. This is my favorite in round 1. Let's see how it develops. Much more maritime now. The sea has kind of taken over. I'm really not getting the yogurty stuff anymore. No, it's still there. It's pretty subtle. But yeah, it's seawater and seashells and apple and malt and oatmeal, all that good stuff. And things that are telling my brain that there's peat in this, even though there's not peat in this. But if I'm honest, the nose was not really the selling point on this whiskey, so let's try it on the palate. I mean, Bruichladdich, up until the reopening, and even through the reopening, was never really seen as like a top tier, like whiskey. It was never seen as being up there with, the 3 monsters in the southeast coast of Islay or Bowmore. Well, okay, it was, during the really bad years at Bowmore, it was probably better than Bowmore, but outside of that, like, it just didn't have that reputation, that heritage, that pedigree. But man, you try this, which is just like a pure razor sharp expression of Islay without peat to kind of confuse proceedings, and you immediately get a sense of what the distillery is capable of. And what this barley is capable of. Holy cow, that's good. It doesn't really change that much with water, if I'm honest. It still does that. What's getting me is just the way it gives you one thing up front, in the front of your mouth, and explodes into something very, very different and very, very just weighty and intense and powerful on the mid palate and on the finish. This is a lot of fun. It's very, very well made. Could I go for another little bit of yogurt in this? Sure, I absolutely could. But other than that, this is what I go for in a Bruichladdich. This is fantastic. I'm going to give this... I can't get up to 90. I can't quite get up to 90. It doesn't quite have that complexity yet. But I will give it an 89. 89 points for the Bere Barley 2008. And that is your lineup. It's sort of just... the points get higher as we go. 85 minus for the Islay Barley. It's really fine. Just don't add water to it. It kind of doesn't like it. Do add water to the Organic Barley 2009, though, which gets 86 points for its reaction to, the liquid stuff. But yeah, my favorite here by miles is the Bere Barley 2008, 89 points. And that's it. I think I'm done with Bruichladdich for a while. Thanks for watching, and if you want a book, tell me, and maybe I can make a case to my wife to go sit and write the thing. And yeah, thanks for watching, and cheers.